it? Oh, there it is. Okay. Welcome.
Yeah.
We are really excited to have you here today for our 6th annual faculty concert featuring our scientists. We thought about a dress code of just having them all wear lab coats, but unfortunately that was resisted at the time it was suggested. So we have kind of an eclectic program for you today. There were people who are coming from different places, different styles, different genres, different languages, and so forth. In the first half of the concert, we focus a little bit more on the guest faculty and some of the things that we're bringing to bear. And each of the folks who are bringing something to the table today will be introducing their songs. As it happens, the next song is the one that I suggested, a song that I've always wanted to play, and I thought it would fit the scene of scientists, chromosome and all that. But then I looked, after learning the song, I realized the song is not chromosome, but chromosome. I have no idea what that is. So we'll run with that, and then take an opportunity for each of the musicians to introduce the song as they go. So here is Chromosome by Mainzer.
I'll fix that to yours. No problem.
Hello? This next part's going to be a little more chill. We're going to start with a Swedish polska. So it's become something of a tradition for me at these concerts to sing a Swedish folk song. Yeah, that I sing a couple verses in Swedish and I translate it in English. I've done that for the last 2 years at this concert, and I run into a little bit of a problem right now, which is that I have sort of gone through all of the morally upright songs and also the morally neutral ones, and I'm moving into the morally suspect. But the Swedes have a problem. They have a solution to this problem because they have a lot of morally suspect songs. And what they do is they end the song, such a song, with the word "san." They say "san," and that means "he said." Right, so don't blame me. It's what's not mine. It's good also for the song to have a little bit of cultural context. So does anybody know what the two most important holidays are in Sweden? What are the two most important holidays? Midsummer, yes. What?
St. Lucia.
St. Lucia, yeah, no. Yeah. It's close. It's Christmas. You've heard of that, right? Christmas? Yeah. So, Christmas is the other one. So Christmas, and they're at opposite ends of the calendar, right? Christmas is the darkest time of year. Midsummer is the lightest time of year. Christmas is about celebrating Jesus, and Midsummer is about celebrating whatever the opposite of Jesus is. So this is a song about Midsummer. Jag sjunger om en man, han hette Jon. Sjöng faboli, oli lille Jon. Han dansar kring jäntorna på Lon. Sjöng faboli, oli lille. Och midsommarnatten, den var inte lång. Sjöng faboli, och den var inte lång. 50 vackor fick han igång. Sjöng faboli, oli lille. I sing of a man, his name, Little John. Sing faboli of our Little John. He danced with all the maids on the lawn. Sing faboli, lille. Well, midsummer's night is short this far north. Sing faboli is short this far north. But he got 50 cradles to rock back and forth. Sing faboli, lille. And summoned to court was our Little John. Sing faboli was our Little John. So he might do right by the maids on the lawn. Sing faboli, lille. The judge opened up his sentencing book. Sing faboli, his sentencing book. For how many rugrats are you on the hook? Sing faboli, lille. Well, I couldn't say how many that be. Sing faboli, how many that be. If it were 50 or 53, sing faboli, lille. A deacon stepped in with parochial zeal. Sing faboli, parochial zeal. Demanding repentance, he told me to kneel. Sing faboli, lille. But kneeling's a thing that I'd never do. Sing faboli that I'd never do. Unless that cruel deacon would kneel with me too. Sing faboli, lille. And next up in line, a priest who was worse. Sing faboli, a priest who was worse. He wanted me to recite him a verse. Sing faboli, lille. Reciting a verse suits me not the least. Sing faboli suits me not the least. 'Cause that seems like more of a job for a priest. Sing faboli, lille. The church and the law have both had their chance. Sing faboli have both had their chance. But it's time I returned to the maids in the dance. Sjung faboli, lille. Song.
thank all the Local Arts Studies faculty for inviting me back to play with them. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Collin Lewis. I'm the director of UC Merced Arts at UC Merced. Very excited to be here. And also, can we just get a quick round of applause for the amazing staff here at the Mainzer that are keeping So, in thinking about the theme of tonight's concert, science is music, music is science, I was trying to figure out, my background is mostly in classical music. I'm like, oh, how can I tie this is a very old art form, not very sciencey. Of course, there are kind of the classic science analogies and facts about music, right? There's the math of music, the physics of sound. But as a mostly classical musician, I wanted to focus on the connection of classical music with technology. And so tonight I'm playing a new piece by a living American composer, Brenden. It's called Songs of Nature, or as you see in the program, in French if you're fancy. This is a piece for, as I said, clarinet and delayed pedal. So it focuses on different aspects of nature. It's loosely based on Aesop's fables. The whole piece is 7 sections, but I'm just going to do 4 of them for you today. And I'll introduce each one before I play it. So this first one is titled The Birds.
So now, it's time to bring on our first scientist.
All right! Science!
Here for science! Our first guest today is Dr. Ramesh Balasubramaniam. So I'm going to be reading from his bio, but I just want to say that I've known that Ramesh plays for, a long time. I've known each other for 10 or 11 years now, and he's always sort of said, yeah, I'm a musician. And I never really quite believed him. Because, he has a way about him, you believe anything that he says. And so I'm really excited to have this opportunity to play with him. Dr. Balasubramaniam is a professor of cognitive science. He researches how the brain processes music and rhythm with the goal of understanding human musicality from biological and cultural perspectives. He was trained as a percussionist in the Indian classical tradition, playing mridangam and tabla. Over the years, he expanded his repertoire to include West African and Latin styles of percussion and Indo-jazz fusion. He teaches courses in music cognition at the undergraduate level, crossing to with global arts, and the graduate level in the cognitive science program. Please welcome Dr. Ramesh Balasubramaniam.
First of all, I just want to begin with expressing my gratitude to the Global Arts Faculty, Jayson in particular, for putting this program together. So a big shout out to Jayson. And all the amazing musicians that I have the pleasure of sharing the stage with. Really amazing people. Some of them have started to meet recently, some I've known for a long time. It's been truly delightful being part of this experience. And what a community. What a community the Global Arts program has built. I'm really delighted to be here. And I'm especially delighted because what I study is the science of music. And the first thing as a scientist who studies music I want to be kind of careful about is to approach the subject with humility. Music is a cultural construction. It is something that is a human universal, if you might call it that. So, as a person, as a blue-collar scientist trying to study music, what I'm really trying to do is to try to understand what goes on in your brain when you're processing music. Why is it that evolutionary biology gave us music, but none of our primate ancestors, who are very close to us, don't have this particular function? So is music related to language? And if it is it being driven by the same neurobiology? And here is a shout out to all my grad students. Some of them are sitting up there. My undergraduate students are here. They're all here to support me. So I feel like a little kid going through my audition today to hang out with these big guys. And here, they're all here. My students are here to support me. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. You're like family. So the song I'm going to play today is a song that reflects many things about my own life. I am a person who learned Indian classical music. I came to this country several years ago, and I realized that there's actually a very long tradition of Indian music being fused with jazz, and that is exactly what I represent. This particular song was written by Mahavishnu Orchestra, which is one of the offshoot bands of the Miles Davis era. And this song was written by a guy named John McLaughlin. The song is called Lotus Feet. And this year, we lost one of the world's greatest percussionists, who actually the song was sort of co-written with. His name was Zakir Hussain, a California native, and an Indian transplant like me. And I want to dedicate this song to the memory of the great Zakir Hussain. So, thank you so much for your indulgence. Jayson, thank you for letting me speak. And here we go.
This is so great to see you all here. Really, thank you.
Patricia!
Colleagues, students. So I have to introduce the next two. And you know, I'm not a real scientist, right? So you know how it goes, right? The humanities, yeah. But anyways, so I'm going to introduce. So this piece that's coming up is called Baião de Deutsch, and I have to correct the name of the composer. Is not correct in the program, so if you want to take a look, the composer of this tune is Delia Fischer. It's a woman, yay! The only one in the whole program. So there are a few reasons why I chose this piece. First, because as you can see, the sphere of music is still unbelievably male-dominated.
Boom!
Yeah, so we have to continue pushing, you know, still for more spaces. So it's a whole structural thing. But anyways, so I chose the piece because Delia is an amazing composer. She's a Brazilian composer, unbelievable pianist and singer. And this is a tune that's based on so-called traditional rhythms from Brazil. Baião is a northeastern rhythm that I love. If you come to the faculty concert, you might have realized that I always play a baião. And so it's fused, of course. As you're going to hear, it has a lot of jazz tinges. And even the baião itself, right, supposedly is this folk style. But that folk style is in itself a fusion of many rhythms, many instruments from different places. For example, the main instrument for the folk style is accordion. And accordions arrived to Brazil with Italian migration, right, in the late 19th century, and so on and so forth. So this has all to do with what I like to research, which is musical migrations throughout Latin America. And that's one of my main research topics. And I have a dispute with a very dear friend who is a real scientist. And he says that I like to research hybrid musics. You know, hybrids. And I'm like, no. There are no hybrids in music. And it's like, yes, that's what you do. And I'm like, no. They are not hybrids because they were never pure forms to begin with. Right? So they're fusions. So that's one of the reasons why I chose this song, because I love this, you know, this little fight, and I love fusion music. My dear friend Delia she was, we had the same piano teacher, and she was older than me, so she was a little bit of a role model, and she became my dear, dear friend. So also to the science of making and keeping friendships.
Thank you all. We're going to take a very short break, and then we'll come back with something completely different. Okay, and we're back. So we've got a really interesting second set for you all. I would encourage you to order food and beverages because Mainzer has been very kind in hosting us here today. Actually, can we have a round of applause for the Mainzer and their staff? They've been really great to work with for this concert, and they made all of this possible today. It's time to introduce our second musician scientist. Dr. Lempiala is an assistant professor of management at the Department of Management of Complex Systems at UCM Merced. Her research interests include innovation practice and management, sustainable energy, and paradoxical tensions of organizational life. Her research aims to create a better understanding of innovation as a social and collaborative process, and through this discover better means of supporting it. Dr. Lempiala is passionate about various aspects of equity, especially in the context of creating more inclusive innovation cultures. Previously, she spent 2 years at Stanford University as a visiting postdoctoral scholar. Before her time in the United States, Dr. Lempiala led a research group in innovation practice at the Department of Industrial Engineering and Management and worked as a postdoctoral scholar in the Department of Organization Studies at Aalto University, Finland. She's conducted qualitative research in technology companies and nonprofit organizations in the United States, India, and Europe. And one of the things I just want to add here is that tonight she's going to be singing songs in 4 different languages. So please welcome Dr. Lempiala.
My songs after the first one, because this one is picked by Patricia. Do you want to introduce this one?
This piece is about nature, and it's a song that is not among the most known by Tom Jobim, Antonio Carlos Jobim. You know him well from Girl from Ipanema and Quiet stuff like that, and a million others. But this one is not as well known outside of Brazil, and it's beautiful. And Thea is amazing singing it.
Está So I study innovation and creativity, and the songs that I chose represent taking risks, even though it would be difficult. That's the song called Be Good that I'll sing next. They represent letting go, even when it's difficult, because sometimes you try things, you do ideas, you do innovation, and you just have to let go, even if you don't want to. It happens in life too. And then the last one is actually in Swedish. So I'm singing a song first in English, then in Swedish, and then in Finnish, which is my native language, is Finnish. The Swedish one is Dansa på min grav, which means dance on my grave, and it's not as dark as it sounds. It's a song, but it's Scandinavian, so things are dark. But it's about the importance of fostering creativity. So the song is really about how, when the world wants to teach us and our children how to stand in rows and be quiet and follow rules and just fit in, how important it is to remember to encourage ourselves and our children to play, to dance, to believe in who we are. And so that to me is the key of creativity. And I want to dedicate that song already to my wonderful son Ilari, who is here tonight, and all the beautiful, wonderful, creative children. May you always dance. And that's the song we're going to start with. The next one is called Be Good, or The Lion's Song. And this is the one about taking risks and being afraid of letting lions out of their cages. And then the last one, called Dalloisen Kesäyönä. And it's a Finnish song on a summer night like this. And as said earlier, Scandinavian summer nights are a particular thing. And this is about watching somebody leave on a summer night and waiting until it gets light out again before it goes.
musician scientist number 3, who's already on this stage with us now. His bio is very brief. I think it's kind of suspiciously brief, to be honest, because there's a lot he's leaving out here, but I'll read what he left for me. Dr. Arnold Kim has been a professor of applied mathematics at UC Merced for 21 years. Okay. Joining as founding faculty member in 2004. He works at the intersection of mathematics, science, and engineering, studying wave propagation and random media applications in biomedical optics, wireless communications, and imaging in complex media. His current research focus is on buried landmine detection using synthetic aperture radar. What he didn't write on here is he's also the songwriter and author of a number of really great rock albums for the Yellow Hope Project that you all should check out on Spotify or wherever you capture your media. So, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Arnold Kim.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming out. Jayson asked me to say something, and begrudgingly, I will. My songs generally have nothing to do with science because I teach mathematics, and at this stage in the semester, I look at the fraction of attendance in my classes, and then I look at the attention of the people that are attending my classes, and I make records to sell them, so clearly that's not a marketing strategy. But I do write about scientists, if not science, and so this first song I'll do, I thought about how you could give a data-driven argument to tell somebody that they're high maintenance and a fairly unpleasant person. So let's give it a shot.
Exhaustive testing and observations, early indications. These data show that you have never grown from any experience that you would know. What do you want? What do you want me to say? Every time things don't go your way, so I have to let things you will never see. The forest from the trees, you grow fit, rage and then you quit. Fighting time to deal with it. What do you want? What do you want me to say? Every time things don't go You think I'm too hard. You say I'm too mean. Well, it's never you and it's always me. What do you want? What do you want me to say? Every time things don't go your way. What do you want me to say? Every time things don't go your way. This next one, being in science can be a little depressing sometimes. And
I've been known to sometimes be in a good mood, and I feel like I have to hide that from my colleagues. And so I wrote this song mostly for me to give myself a pep talk when I'm in one of those good moods. The song's called It's Okay to Be Okay.
Lost its spark, things are getting dark, everything seems dark. I know the whole world's going mad, everyone is sad. This is not so bad, but you know you can't keep going on, always dwelling on everything that's wrong. I know it all feels like too much, clear out all the stuff. We're all so out of touch. I know it seems to be getting worse. We involve a curse, joke on the universe. But you know you can't keep going on, always dwelling on everything that's wrong. It's alright to feel alright. It's okay to be okay. Take some time. It's alright to feel alright. It's okay to be okay. Take some time, set things right. Yourself and take a break. It's alright to feel alright. It's okay to be okay and take some time, set things right. Yourself and take a break. It's alright to feel alright. It's okay to be okay. Take some time, set things right. Yourself and take a break. It's alright. Okay. It's alright. It's okay, it's okay. Thank you very much. You should buy my records. Professor gave K's okay. All right, this last one is was inspired by my experiences being in faculty meetings. Say what's on your mind. Everything from that to this guess you don't ever seem to miss an opportunity to talk. You always have something to say. You always have something to say. You always have something to say. But I never see you do anything. You find the fault in someone else's argument. That is all you can do. It's so obvious to us that you just know enough to pull this through. You always have something to say. You always have something to say. You always have something to say. But I never see you do anything. Any sort of anything of your own. Now then it's time to step on up and show us all what you got. You don't even show. You always have something to say. You always have something to say. You always have something to say. But I never see you do anything. You always have something to say. You always have something to say. You always have something to say. But I never see you do anything. Something to say. You always have something to say. You always have something to say. But I never see you do anything. You always have something to say. You always have something to say. You always have something to say. But I never see you do anything.
I don't know about y'all, but that was my experience about Right. So, and I'm sure he's not writing about any of y'all on that. So, our last featured guest today. And I come to realize that a lot of people in the room have never heard this person play, which is kind of shocking to me, given how much an amazing musician he is. It's Dr. Amemiya. He's originally from Hawaii and was either going to study science or music out of high school. Science eventually won out. However, he never stopped playing music, learning jazz largely through self-study in the School of Hard Knocks. His variety of varied musical experiences run the gamut from gambling chips, story about that, the pirate ships. Okay, so right, okay, got it. Salsa bands, hit in circus orchestras. Circus orchestras? Okay, right on. Regional symphony orchestras, jingle recordings, R&B bands, and numerous large and small jazz groups. He's played with many jazz, salsa, and blues luminaries as a sideman and has performed and recorded with the house big bands of Riles Jazz Club in Boston and Tula's Jazz Club in Seattle. He's a geneticist by training and is very interested in genetic underpinnings and origins of the immune system and early development. He was a part of the Human Genome Project and conducted research on human diseases such as myotonic dystrophy. More recently, he's been working in an area that seeks to understand the origins of organismal innovations. He's published 200 scientific papers and is a big proponent of a new discipline called Evo Devo. For Chris, science and music have always gone hand in hand, and the emotion that is experienced when playing music or peering through a microscope are very similar. So welcome our last featured guest of the evening, Dr. Amemiya.
Well, Jayson, thank you very much for that introduction. Let's have a hand for these wonderful musicians. So, I'm a molecular biologist by training, and molecular biology and jazz music in particular, there's a lot of similarities and overlap. Sometimes I actually think I'm inside the test tube. And, it's like the same experience when I'm playing music and it's going really well. You see these things in your head. And anyway, this first composition, in terms of science, of course, we write these things when we have these experiences. And so this experience that I had when I was doing my first postdoc in Tampa Bay, it was late at night. I think maybe I had come from the lab, or maybe I was coming back from one of those gambling ships things. It was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and maybe I actually had a paper rejected, but I was not feeling great. And then I turned on the TV, and then there's this thing, Feed the Children. And so when you watch those, you get pretty sad. And so this tune is actually written in honor of children throughout the world, and it probably impacted me in the sense that it took me a long time to actually come to the realization that I should probably have kids myself. So I was over 40 when I had my first child. And anyway, this is called The Lonely Children. I thank the band for reading it because it's kind of a through composed piece, combining some jazz and classical things. And I'm going to do an experiment here. The very first part is actually, I'm going to try to play and fill up this room with the trombone. And so let me see where I can point my bell to get the best sound here. It's to get the natural reverberation of the room. I'm going to point it this way. also inspired by environment. When I was a grad student, actually my PhD in Texas, and one of the first days that I got there, after I got there, I saw this critter running around. I heard some folks saying, "What the heck is that?" And I said, "Oh man, that's an armadillo." And I thought, that's a pretty funky animal. And so I wrote this piece. It's basically kind of like the blues. It's a takeoff on blues. So I call it Armadillo Strut. And it was really to honor the armadillo, that is a very funky and quirky animal. And also you'll notice during the blowing section, the solo section, that there's kind of this strange kind of transition, as if a bar is, or a beat is missing. I distinctly remember seeing the armadillo and then it just scurried off and wait a minute, where's the beat? And so this is Armadillo Strut, and see if you can hear that missing beat.
give another round of applause to our special guest, Amemiya, Lempiala, and Arnold Kim. We're going to do something else for a bit. Apparently, it's been working through all night. On bass, Hillhouse. On drums, Brenden Barber. On keyboard, Patricia Vergara. On saxophone, Westby. On flute, back in the shadows, Kaminsky. On clarinet over there, somewhere in the shadows, Collin Lewis. I think I got everyone, right? Okay. We really appreciate your support tonight. This has been a really great event, and we couldn't have done it without you. So thank you. Have a great night, and enjoy the waning semester because it's almost over. Thank you all. Have a great night.